Ooh, that's loud. Okay. So I was trying to decide what I should talk on today. I was so tired I couldn't think clearly. I was like, oh, I just want to take a nap. That's what I want to do. Not be thinking about which. I was like, oh, talk about working with tiredness. Yeah, obviously I figured out what to talk about, and here we are. But I've been very tired lately, a lot of more tiredness than usual. I'm doing this detox protocol, and my body's, upended, doing all these different herbs and stuff. And yeah, my body's not happy about what I'm doing, right? So I've gotten a lot of practice at working with tiredness lately, and that's why I'm going to talk about this. So I think the very first thing that we have to do when we're really tired is to bring mindfulness to the tiredness, to discern whether it's genuine tiredness for a legitimate reason or whether it's sloth and torpor, which is considered a mental hindrance in the Buddhist practice. Yeah, and so I'm going to talk a little bit about genuine tiredness, and then sloth and torpor is the main one that we're supposed to be practicing or working with. But if you're a human being, you're going to deal with tiredness. And tiredness is a real problem when every time you sit down and meditate, you fall asleep. Yeah, because in order to do this practice, you have to be awake and alert and aware and present with whatever's arising and seeing it clearly. Those are the instructions, right? But if you're in this foggy haze, half asleep, snorting yourself awake, or whatever it is, you're not going to get much value out of your practice, or we won't. And then on top of that, we're supposed to take the momentum that we gain from our meditation practice to bring clear mindful awareness during the day as often as we can remember to be fully present, right? In order to do all this awake, aware, alert mindfulness, we need to have some energy. We need to be here in order to do that and not going through in a hazy fog, right? So genuine tiredness. There are usually some cues that this is genuine tiredness and not sloth and torpor, right? Sloth and torpor is called tinha midha in Pali, the Buddhist language. But what are some, how can you discern whether this is genuine tiredness? What are some reasons that cue you into that this might be tiredness, like a word or two?
Playing pickleball for 3 hours.
Playing pickleball for 3 hours, great.
Staying awake until 4:30,
Being awake half of the night,
then you get to sleep.
yep, great. What else?
And the weather too.
Weather, so sometimes when the weather gets really dull or dark or rainy, is that genuine tiredness? It might be, yeah, but that tends to happen, right?
The flowers close.
What else? Genuine tiredness.
Detoxing.
Detoxing, thank you, Dave.
Detoxing. That can
Yeah.
sap your energy.
That does, right? Detoxing does. Good, thank you. What's that, hon? Who said what?
I think Sherry said change of season.
Change of seasons, right? Anybody notice that? Change of seasons?
I just
Yeah.
said weather, so
Weather.
move on, girl. No,
Oh.
I'm only kidding.
What did you say?
Emotional stress.
Okay, stress, right? Whether it's physical stress or emotional stress. Physical stress could be if we've been sick lately, having to take certain medications. Physical health problems can do that. Lack of exercise can be a reason for excess tiredness. I know with me that if I get a good little walk in or some exercise that's not 3 hours, then I feel better. You guys are both pickleball. Maybe you talk to each other here. And blood sugar imbalances. I can't tell you how many times when I used to work as a therapist at the Addiction Recovery Center, they would eat these huge high carb meals or high sugar, and then they would all be taking naps. They're fighting over the couches together and after lunch. So if diet can cause tiredness, blood sugar imbalances. If you have to take a nap every time after you eat, that might be blood sugar issues. So
Also
genuine,
low blood pressure, low blood
low,
pressure as well.
okay,
You get
thank you.
very tired.
Low blood pressure can make you tired. And from an acupuncturist, you must know. Yeah.
Yep.
I just learned recently that really not having enough water in your body.
Oh, being dehydrated can make you tired, right? So all of these, thank you. All these reasons can give you genuine tiredness. So you want to bring mindfulness to tiredness to see if there's something causing it that's causing genuine. And then what this genuine tiredness is doing is it's asking you, it's inviting you to change something in your life, maybe better self-care, maybe changing your diet, playing pickleball for 1 hour instead of 3, changing your schedule, reducing your stress, taking more exercise, something, yeah. Or I think if you have a great self-care regimen, perhaps you didn't sleep well, right? Maybe having some good sleep hygiene and talking to your doctor about getting some healthier sleep. Yeah, so I think it's really important to have compassion, self-compassion for ourselves if it's genuine tiredness. And there's nothing wrong with a nice little nap. Yeah, sometimes that's what's warranted is a nice nap. In fact, one of our people here left because they went to go take a nap. They were too tired. Yeah. So when we're tired, there's no light in the mind. The mind gets pretty dark. Everything's murky. We can't think really clearly. We get kind of confused. We feel disconnected from our body, from our lives and other people. Motivation goes way down. These are some byproducts of tiredness. Yeah, feel heavy, dark. Some people get depressed when they get tired, or it can coexist with a little bit of depression. So what is sloth and torpor? Sloth and torpor, if that was genuine tiredness, this is not genuine tiredness, right? So if we're taking care of we have really good self-care, we're taking care of all of our needs, we're sleeping pretty well, then it's sloth and torpor. It's coming up. It's just this real, it's considered a mental hindrance. It's a psychological force that obscures the natural luminosity of your mind and obscures your ability to see things clearly and to be alive and alert and awake. There's not a lot of healthy functioning of the mind when we have sloth and torpor. Yeah. And we don't want anything to hinder our attention, certainly not sloth and torpor. Now, I can tell you when I first started my meditation practice, sloth and torpor, I was praying for sloth and torpor. It's like, please bring me sloth and torpor, because I had high anxiety and I was always like, just this constant inner shaking, quaking. Yeah. I'd wake up in the middle of the night and there would be all this anxiety and slight panic coming for no particular reasons. So I guess my cortisol levels were really, really high, obviously. And a lot of my meditation was trying to relax and trying to calm this anxiety down and bring mindfulness to anxiety. So I was like, yeah, sloth and torpor, that's not my deal, right? But once I started getting better at meditating and the anxiety started going down and down and down, then all of a sudden I found myself having to deal with sloth and torpor. I'm like, wait a minute. I thought I didn't have sloth and torpor, but I've had to work with it before. Some people call it sinking mind. Yeah. Um, I'm looking here to see. Now, you have to be very careful with sloth and torpor because there's a real seductiveness to it, right? It's like getting under a warm cover and curling in the body feels great, and you just take a nice little warm, dark nap where you sink down into this cozy little den, you know. And so sometimes when we're meditating, it can just feel so good to have sloth and torpor. And then we can kind of be half awake, half asleep, and then come back to at the end and go, wow, that was the best meditation. But it's actually sloth and torpor because if we can't remember what happened during the meditation, we're like, wonder what happened. It just felt really pleasant. We were probably half asleep. Yeah. And that's not what we want. We want a clear state of being alert and aware. So sloth refers to low motivation and laziness, right? And when you think about sloth, this low motivation is called tinha, cloudiness. The comparison is the three-toed sloth that hangs upside down by a tree for hours and hours and moves so slowly you can barely tell it's moving, or the animal, the sloth. And I've heard you can shoot a gun right next to the sloth's head and it won't even blink or flinch. So there's like, it's that sluggish that it won't even react. Yeah. So sloth usually goes with torpor, but not always. Torpor suggests it's more bodily and energetic imbalance, excess sleepiness, sluggishness, the real fogginess. It's not mental laziness or lack of motivation, it's physical. So they usually, like I said, they often go together. But with torpor, the body feels heavy, lethargic, weary, or weak. It can be difficult to sit up straight when we have torpor. So when we have torpor, we tend to sink down and the chin goes down. That's why I suggested in the meditation to lift your chin up when you're feeling sloth and torpor, right? When you're feeling tired, really tired. Yeah, but you know, together, there's low energy, there's low motivation, there's a real sluggish laziness. And this sloth and torpor drains our vitality and it limits our ability, our efforts, and our energy in our practice. It can feel like a sinking state of dullness, where there's no clarity, no energy with sloth and torpor. So when they're working together, it can, working together, sloth and torpor, they can appear as feeling overwhelmed, and the confusion, brain fog. Anybody here felt brain fog before? Yeah. Freeze. Anybody just feel frozen and feel like you can't do anything? Just got to sit here. Collapse can disguise itself as rooted in deep layers of no purpose, right? Well, I don't have any purpose. Why should I do? Unclear intentions in practice. You can have a lot of sloth and torpor if you don't have clear, specific intentions with your practice. A narrow window of tolerance with discomfort. So the mind will start putting you to sleep if you're getting uncomfortable, if you don't want it. The mind is a genius that way. If you have difficult emotions, the mind can start putting you to sleep, sloth and torpor. To avoid pain of any kind. Yeah. So being caught in sloth and torpor resembles slogging through some thick mud, right? And the only reason it's a problem is there's no mindfulness with sloth and torpor. We want to have mindfulness. It can also manifest as avoiding, procrastinating, being lazy. being indifferent, fantasizing, feeling really spacey. Any of those sound familiar? You got you some sloth and torpor, honey. Yeah. So it's not helpful to go through our life with a lot of sloth and torpor. Yeah. What do they say? The early bird gets the early bird gets the worm. The person who's got vitality and vigor and going for things, has energy about things, passion in life, tends to live a much more purpose-filled, happier life. Whereas if we're kind of like, oh, another day. What's today? Monday? No. Oh, it's Thursday. Yeah. Even though that happens, it's okay. But here's the simile that the Buddha gave for sloth and torpor was he compared it to, he always used water analogies, and this water analogy was that it's a pool filled with algae and water plants. And the goal of looking in the water is to see your reflection, right? But sloth and torpor is like, it's so filled with these plants, the plant matter, it's clogged with plant matter, you can't see your reflection. So it's real murky. Here's in the middle discourses, one of the notes in the middle discourses said, sloth and torpor arise by submitting to boredom and laziness and are abandoned by arousing energy, right? So we can choose to arouse our energy instead of getting lost in sloth and torpor. And this is in the simile of the elephant's footprint in the Majjhima Nikaya 275, one of the suttas there. Abandoning sloth and torpor, the Buddha says, one abides free from sloth and torpor, percipient of light, mindful and fully aware. One purifies one's mind of sloth and torpor. What's percipient mean? Is that
for knowledge?
for knowledge? Okay, for knowledge of light or for I don't know what it means. Anyhow, now I want to know. But I guess that's like your mind is filled with light. Yeah, because the natural state of the mind, when we're calm, peaceful, and mindful and alert, it's luminescent, it's bright, and it's clear, empty of, except for the brightness. Yeah, so I gave you a bunch of clues on what to do with sloth and torpor in the meditation. Sitting up straight, opening your eyes, breathing deeply, setting your intention can be really helpful. Like, why are you doing this practice? What brings you all the way, coming to Zoom when you could be doing so many other more pleasant things? Yeah. There's something that's motivating you. So reminding yourself of your motivation for why you're doing this. And the Buddha gave all kinds of examples on how to work with sloth and torpor. There's, in fact, yeah, let me see if I can find these notes. I had a whole bunch of them. Okay, the Buddha said that you want to change your attitude if you have sloth and torpor, to drop limiting beliefs and stories. Perhaps you get tired and lazy because you don't believe you can do this, or you suck at this, or this is too hard. To drop those stories, drop those limiting beliefs, and just be with things as they are. Yeah. But if you can change your attitude, have a good intention, drop your limiting beliefs, and you're still getting drowsy, sloth and torpor, then you can get up from your seat after washing your eyes out with water, look around in the directions upward and forward to the major stars and constellations. This is the Buddha giving instructions to his students. This will usually shake off your drowsiness. Raising the head to look up is very helpful when you're tired, he says. We look down, so raise that chin up. Focus on light and develop a brightened mind. So if you open your eyes, look at the sun or some light that can bring energy in, yeah? If you have a candle on your altar, then you can look at the candle. Whatever's bright light. Some people can imagine a bright light in their mind. Often when I'm meditating, see a bright light right here in the center of my head. It's called an nimitta. Then if you still can't shake off your drowsiness, the Buddha said to meditate walking back and forth. Do walking meditation. I do standing meditation when I get really tired. Walking back and forth, your senses inwardly immersed, your mind not straying outwards. It's possible by doing this, you will shake off your drowsiness. But if you do all these things and you still can't, says the Buddha, if you do all these things, you still can't shake your drowsiness, then recline on your right side, take up the lion's posture, one foot placed on top of the other, mindful, alert, with your mind set on getting up. And as soon as you wake up, get up quickly with the thought, I won't stay indulging in the pleasure of lying down, the pleasure of reclining, the pleasure of drowsiness. That is how you should train yourself. In other words, he's saying, take a nap. And then when you're done with your nap, get up and decide you're going to be vigorous now. Yeah? So if you do all these things and you still are falling asleep and you're sleeping fine and there's no reason for you to be this tired when you go to meditate, then it's really important to take time to explore the tiredness. And some people call it rain, recognize, accept, investigate, and do it all with a nurturing, non-attached awareness. You can explore the tiredness. You can get really curious about it. There are a couple times that I was struggling with sloth and torpor, falling asleep. I think I told you this story. It's one of my favorite. I was on this long retreat. I think it was a month long or 2 months long. And I'm struggling to keep awake. I'm like, what? This is not like me. I was so excited about being on this retreat. I couldn't believe I was falling asleep. And so then I decided to open my eyes, and I'm meditating with my eyes open, but something's distracting me over here to my right. And I'm like, trying not to pay attention, trying to be inwardly focused. And finally, I'm like, okay, what is going on? So I look over to my right, and this famous monk is there, like one of the most famous Buddhist teacher monks on Vipassana, famous Vipassana teacher, is sitting on his cushion in front of me to my right going, he was head bobbing all over. He was doing the weebles wobble, but they don't fall down. And I started to laugh inwardly. I was like, oh, great. So if a meditation master of masters has to deal with sloth and torpor, then I guess it's okay for me too. Yeah. But
Who
often,
was it?
I'm not going to tell you who it was. But the more curiosity you can bring to the sloth and torpor, the more energy you're going to bring. Like I would be like, I'm going to see if I can see the exact moment I start to head bob. Like I'm waiting. When is the head bob going to come? When is it? And then the head bob never comes. Why? Because I brought all this energy through curiosity. Yeah. But the other thing too is when I've explored real deep tiredness, the darkness, the heaviness, the sinking sensations, the desire to lay down, the warmth, all this stuff, and then stay with that. There were a couple times I did it where I've had really strong emotions, like grief, sit there crying, like. So the sloth and torpor was my mind trying to force me to not feel this grief. Yeah, and as soon as I felt this wave of grief, guess what happened? Sloth and torpor was over. Yeah. So sometimes that's your last resort, is to bring really strong mindful awareness to your real weariness. You might have to change your life. Like I knew a lady that used to come to the meditation group, and she wanted me to work with her personally. And she said, every time I meditate, I fall asleep. And she was one of these real high energy, chipper kind of people. It was hard to believe that, but she did. She would be bobbing and weaving on her cushion. And so when I met with her, I said, so what is your life like? She said, what do you mean? I said, what is your life like? And she showed me her calendar. She had every moment of the day booked with activity, right? Well, first I have to go here, and then I have to go there, and then I'm having lunch with so-and-so, and then after that I gotta go do this appointment, and then I've got to get this work done, and, so every single one of her days was just slap full of responsibility and activity, right? And I was like, yeah, I can see where your sloth and torpor is coming from. She was overly busy. Yeah, which causes, if you're going all day, the 1 minute that you get to rest, your body's going to say, oh, thank God, let's sleep. Yeah, so I suggested she get more balance in her life, cut out half of her, she was retired, she could, cut out half of her busyness, and then the sloth and torpor would go away. And then I taught her all these other techniques, but she refused to cut down on her schedule, so she continued to sleep through meditations. Because she was addicted to busyness, right? The Buddha actually called busyness a form of laziness. Sloth and torpor, one of the manifestations of sloth and torpor is laziness, right? We want to explore this. Yeah, if we can't not be busy all the time. So here are the 3 kinds of laziness that the Buddha taught. Lack of willingness to do things. Procrastination. If we're in the habit of procrastinating, you might want to half the time go, okay, this time I won't procrastinate. I used to tell myself all the time, Nike, just do it. Do it now and you won't have to do it later. Anyhow, so that's something that you can tell yourself that stops you from being procrastinator, especially with your meditation practice. Second form of laziness is limiting beliefs. So when you believe I can't, what's the point? It's too dangerous. Everyone else can do it but me. Yeah. And the third trickiest form of laziness is busyness. Because we use busyness to flee from silence, to run away from our emotions, to run away from ourselves, if we're constantly busy. But it's kind of hard because our society is, I think, addicted to busyness. Yeah, so the main key, of course, is bringing mindfulness to the tiredness, seeing if it's legitimate. If we need to lie down and take a short nap, feel free to do that. It's noticing if it's sloth and torpor, then we can use all these tools to try to work with it. And then if they don't work, none of them work, then Vipassana, investigate in the body, heart, and mind, this sloth and torpor. Energetic noting, labeling can be very helpful when you have sloth and torpor. Like sometimes I've imagined a majorette in my head. Breathing in, breathing out, breathing in, breathing out, breathing in, breathing out. Or, cheerleader or someone with a megaphone. Here comes the in breath, here comes the out breath, and that can give me more energy and stuff like that. So play around with it, whatever will work, and exploring it, and be willing to try different things, and definitely having compassion for yourself, because even meditation masters fall asleep on the cushion. Yeah. So whenever I start feeling really lazy and lose motivation, Sometimes I just need to sit and be silent and not have to have anything to do if I've had a busy day. That's healthy, right? That's not what I'm talking about. But if I'm feeling just really lazy and don't feel like meditating, don't feel like doing anything, I think of Deepa Ma. Deepa Ma was the Sri Lankan enlightened teacher woman who taught meditation, and she used to tell her students all the time, don't be lazy, when they would start giving their excuses. So that was one of the main things she told people. Don't be lazy. Yeah. So we don't know. What if this is our only opportunity, this lifetime is our only opportunity to work through some of our major hindrances? What if this is the only opportunity we'll have to get free from anxiety or fear or insecurity and to feel at ease in our own heart and body and mind? What if this is it? Actually, got news for you. This is it, right? This right here is it. This is all we're guaranteed, is this moment right here. And we get to choose consciously how we want to engage in this moment. Are we going to use this moment mindfully to be alive, awake, alert, and notice what a miracle this life is, that the next breath actually comes and goes, that we have beautiful friends to practice with from all over the world, that we have a heart that beats thousands of times, a week, and that we have people that we love and that love us. We can have fun, we can laugh, we can play, we can dance, hopefully. And those of us who are here, most of us are probably have lived somewhat entitled lives with a lot of good fortune, such that we can even take the time to consider meditating. When I was working at the different addiction recovery centers, some of the people there were struggling with addiction, but they were also struggling with a lot of mental health problems because they were working 2-3 jobs a day, just to feed their children, just to make ends meet. And then they would just get so exhausted with their lives that they would fall off the wagon. So I think, gratitude for how lucky we are that we were born into whatever family we were born into, and the opportunities that we've had will also bring a lot of energy to our lives and our practice. Yeah. So thank you for listening. And let me stop the recording.